It is 6 months into the year. We're halfway through the year. We are halfway through everything that we've read. We've got some things to go, and we are going to talk about what's left in the year, what have we enjoyed, what have we disliked. We've got a whole list of really fun questions. They call it the Mid-Year Freakout.
And it's a big thing in the BookTube community. And since we're new to this community, we're excited to be participating in this. So thank you to Vera for tagging us. We are definitely excited to share a lot of these really good things that have happened over the course of these 6 months. But not only that, what we're excited for the next 6 months. A lot of interesting things to get into. So let's dive right in.
Yeah, hopefully you guys can get some ideas on maybe books that you haven't read, books that you want to read, books you want to read with us. So it should be good. Welcome to next chapter. The very first question here is, what is the best book that you have read so far in 2024?
I know we have had some videos in the past you may have seen if you subscribe to the channel, but one of my favorite reading experiences that I've had is Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. The reason I put it on here, and I know there have been a lot of fantastic books that we've read, it's always hard to make a list like this. The reason I put it as the best book I've read so far in 2024 is because it's the first full book in probably 9 months that I've read cover to cover without listening to any of the audio. And I feel like with a busy life, I tend to listen to a lot more audio to get through books. Totally fair. Like, yeah, you're on the move and stuff. But this is the first one I'm like, I'm going to dedicate evenings and I'm going to actually read this book. I read it in 6 days, 5 days. It was so much fun. Just that reading experience, I still have good memories about it. So I have that as my best book.
Love it, love it. Mine was The Three-Body Problem.
Ooh,
yeah. Amazing book. It was really exciting to read through. Honestly, it was just a different take on sci-fi for me. I loved the very realistic perspective. It wasn't the most fast-paced book that I read, but it was just so enjoyable. Such a different experience. It was a book that I was able to look at and say, wow, they just have such a realistic take on communication with aliens and how that would go down. I feel like they really nailed it. So really fun, really exciting. They have a TV show about it right now. We watched that. Check out our video to see our review on that.
We have interesting thoughts about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. But book was great. I'm really excited to read those next books too. So what is the best sequel that you've read so far in 2024?
The best sequel that I read so far in 2024 was actually a reread, and it was Words of Radiance.
You took mine. It's the same one. Yeah.
I think one of the reasons of Stormlight Archive is so fun for me is because it doesn't feel like those chopped up sequels where it's like the next sequel comes out and you're like, okay, they're just trying to invent new craziness, or they're adding a brand new something into the mix to just spin things around, or their power levels are just going crazy, like every power creep and all that stuff. A lot of sequels fall victim to that. And I think Brandon Sanderson, especially in the Stormlight Archive, which is some of his newer books, are doing a really good job of the story just gets bigger, the scope gets bigger, all the characters, so now we can go one level deeper into the characters, into their backgrounds and why they react in certain ways, certain scenarios, how they grow and develop. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I've said it a million times, but the whole book is Sanderlanche. And if you don't know, it's Brandon Sanderson.
Welcome to the channel.
Welcome to the channel. We talk about Sanderson. It's a great thing. But Words of Radiance, basically Sanderlanche is just an epic conclusion, right?
Yeah.
And I think the first book is just all build almost. Then the end of that book is also just great and finished. But that whole second book has just built off the first book almost better than any sequel I've seen. So I've never been on the edge of my seat for so long for a book. Absolutely love that book. Great experience for a sequel. Loved it.
So let me ask you the next one. New releases. So we're talking about books that have been released recently or about to release. You haven't read yet, but you want to.
For me, this will be the Elon Musk book by
the Walter Isaacson one?
Walter Isaacson. So this one, not a fantasy book. We do a lot of fantasy in this series. In our show.
That's real life fantasy.
But this
is crazy.
Yeah, seriously. I just think he's fascinating. I mean, right on back here, you've got the SpaceX going on here. It just
Starship.
Well, I mean, the company's SpaceX.
True.
Starship.
It's a really cool thing.
Yeah, super cool. super cool. But it's just fascinating. I'd love to learn more about Elon Musk. I loved the Steve Jobs book. I just feel like he gives a very, very fair perspective, at least from the Steve Jobs books. I'll have to determine from Elon Musk. But I felt like I knew Steve Jobs after the book. I knew why people hated him. I know why some people loved him. you get the sense of like, yeah, he's a human. Like he's crazy sometimes, but he's really cool sometimes, and change the world. So I'd love to get that perspective on Elon Musk as well.
I like that. I think my new release I haven't read but want to is actually on your shelf as well, and it's Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan. I honestly, like, I don't even know more than what the cover says about the overall plot. I know you've talked about it. Have you read it, or are you just excited to read it as well?
I have read half of it. Then we started this channel, and I've had to read a bunch of other stuff. So I'm so stoked.
You told me it's exciting, but it's one of the, like, Brandon Sanderson also has a little quick blurb on it. He says, innovative magic, quick-paced plot, interesting world. I had a blast. And I'll be honest, I read a lot of Brandon Sanderson. So if he had a blast, I'm pretty sure I will enjoy it as well. So
I would bet.
I'm excited about reading it.
Yeah. I think we even had someone comment on our channel and say
we should read it?
Yeah, you got to read the Powder Mage series. And that's what that is.
Guess it's all connecting.
Yeah, all good. So I'm stoked about it.
Next one's an easy one.
Yes. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. If it's not Wind and Truth, what are you doing?
So if you're new to the channel, again, like and subscribe. We're great to have you here. But we talk about this in so many of our videos, the fact that this channel was basically created so that we could prepare with everyone in the community for the Wind and Truth release in Dragonsteel Nexus 2024. It's coming up in December, but we have a lot to read before then, and we're reading along with our community, with our audience, and it's an absolute blast. But clearly, the most exciting release of the year is going to be Wind and Truth.
Yeah, it's going to be a great book. And there's a huge convention that we're going to attend that's leading up to all of it. So reread with us. Make sure you catch those books with us so we can go through the experience and prepare for it together. So, biggest disappointment that we've read.
Again, another video we've actually made for me. The first time first DNF in probably a year that I had was easily my biggest disappointment, and it was White Sands, another Brandon Sanderson book. That might be a theme so far of all the books.
It's a theme of our channel, I'd say.
That's a good point. But it was a disappointing one to me. I was pretty disappointed in the plot. I had a lot of critiques for it. I would go to the video, just like go back and watch that video if you haven't seen it, because I go more detail, but kind of disappointed in the plot, very disappointed in the format, things like that. So yeah, I was sad that I didn't even finish it.
Mine was Murtagh by Christopher Paolini.
Oh, yep.
This book, I loved his series as a child.
We're both huge fans of the Inheritance series.
Massive fans. This book just didn't hit for me. The first half of the book felt like filler for me. And the second half of the book, it did get more interesting, but it just wasn't, I don't know. I just wasn't a fan of this book. I just couldn't get into it. I felt like there was a lot of things that just felt weird and off with the book, and it just didn't hit right with me. So
interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah, I know you feel a lot the same with that book.
Oh yeah,
so.
There's a video for that one too.
Check it out. There's a lot of people who feel very strongly in the opposite direction of us. So
absolutely,
see what you think.
Next one is biggest surprise.
Okay, my biggest surprise is that Jaden loved Elantris.
You can't do that. My biggest surprise is Elantris.
I know. I'll tell you. So
Did you see my list before?
I did it, but I forgot that you would have put that in there. But I thought it'd be hilarious to say, like, my biggest surprise is that you liked something. I liked Elantris. It was fine, but it was, for me, very clearly one of Sanderson's first books. Yeah. And I'm like, it's a fine book. Like, it stalls people out in the Sanderson world. But Jaden's like, this is an awesome book. So I'll let you take it from there.
I hate to spoil our review video, which also recently came out a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm going to spoil it a little bit if you haven't seen it already. I gave that a 9.1.
Woo!
And that shocked me.
Yeah.
Like I always rate my books before we have these conversations. We don't like coordinate our scores for books. But a 9.1 is a very, very high rating for me. And I think that I was surprised myself how much I liked that book. And it was probably one of my favorite Sanderson books. And the fact that it was his first book, yes, there are some writing things. Yes, there are a couple of like, oh, that's interesting that he would have written it that way. But overall, an incredible book. And I loved the story. I'm so excited for the sequels to come out. It's just, there's a lot of potential there. It's a great story. I was all in.
I love that. I'll give you a real answer. My biggest surprise is probably Yumi. I shouldn't be surprised because I've loved all the secret projects. But after Tress being so good and the Sunlit Man being so good, I was surprised to have yet another hit with this book. I really enjoyed Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. Thought it was very creative, very fun. And I just had a blast with this book. Also, another one of his beautiful books.
So incredible.
Love it. Love it.
Foreshadowing for later in this video. But we want to shout out favorite new author.
Okay. My favorite new author, new to me, was Liu Cixin. Or how do you say it? Go ahead.
Liu Cixin.
Cixin. Okay, this is the author of The Three-Body Problem. I clearly do not speak Mandarin, but...
Neither do I.
Yeah, well, Jaden just knows a lot of things. But, again, Three-Body Problem, same thing that I said earlier. I just thought his writing style was just very, very creative, very real. Yeah. It almost felt like I was reading a story out of a newspaper of like how things would happen. But not only that, he is actually surprisingly poetic in the way that he writes, which was really cool to me. And so I was just kind of taking it in, the way he paints a picture, paints a story. It's really, really good. I'm really excited to get into his next books and finish that series.
It's pretty great. Honestly, we both loved that. I can't believe I still haven't read the sequels yet. Yeah. It's going to be a good time.
I know. That honestly, if we can't get to it this year, it will be very beginning of next year.
There's so many good things to read. My goodness. Well, I want to take this question to kind of highlight we're new in the BookTube community, right? We're just jumping into the scene, and it's been an absolute blast so far. It's been so much fun, and we love the community.
We are your everyday readers, you would say.
Yeah, that's us. And it's like an everyday book club, I would say. It's super fun. But one of the things that I was honestly shocked, surprised, amazed, we've had 2 authors reach out to us and ask us to read their books, give our honest reviews, and I'm like, that's so cool. That's so kind. Like, they're willing to let us read their works and all that stuff. We haven't even gotten to reading the books. We have a reading schedule that we're trying to keep up with, doing our absolute best. They're coming soon, I promise. But those 2 authors are Ryan Skeffington in his book Lost Souls, and then Stephen Guglick. I'm not quite sure what book we're going to be reading of his, but he just reached out to us, and we're really, really excited to jump into. I think it's part of the Veil series, the Veil Saga. I think it might be the first book or the second book of that, but we are very excited to dive into those. Haven't read them yet, but we are right on the cusp of finishing. We're a little bit in a backlog right now. Yeah. But yeah, we were very excited. And honestly, I just wanted to say thanks to them for reaching out to us, and it's been a blast.
Yeah, we love it. We love authors who reach out to us or are trying to make a name.
We will read your books. We will.
Yeah.
It's just...
Unless we get overwhelmed with a ton of you guys who just send us all your books.
No, we will read them.
We'll read all of them.
We'll read them. We'll read them.
Okay. Well, I mean, what I was going to say is we'll do our best to read all of them.
Yeah.
Jaden's a much faster reader than me, so it's much easier for him to make that commitment than me. Awesome. What is your newest favorite character?
So this is a good one for me, and I think
I put the letter U in favorite here. Did you write this?
Sorry.
It
just looks so much better with a U.
Oh my gosh, more sense. We're in America.
Okay. Anyway, ignore it for a second. Newest favorite character is probably for me become this way because of the secret projects. Remembering from back like a couple of years ago, you first introduced me to the concept where there's one character that exists in almost all of Brandon Sanderson's stories. And he kind of exists in the background. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Kind of fun. I have a single thread that goes through everything. Since reading The Secret Project, especially Yumi and Tress the Emerald Sea, where they're narrated by Hoyd, he has quickly become one of my favorite characters of all time. So fun. It's just a light storytelling style. I absolutely love his narration in these books. It just makes it a better experience overall. And it's so much fun to discover where he's at in all these different books. So newest favorite character for me is definitely Hoyd.
Yeah, it's got to be Hoyd. Hoyd is the best. Everybody loves Hoyd, and everyone wants to know like what comes next. You are dying for those scenes. I love that. For me, I can't take Hoyd because you already took it. We'll give some honorable mentions though. Dasha from Three-Body Problem again. I thought he was fascinating.
You were a huge fan of the police officer.
I thought he was great. I mean, he's a little crass at times, which is like fine, but I just love like he's just such a unique character, which I really like. Of course, and Wayne from the Wax and Wayne series. He is fantastic. Honestly, his character though doesn't really hit for me until The Lost Metal, the very last book, where you start getting some more background on him and who he is and his story, and I think he's just a very, very creative character. Lost Metal is fantastic. It's a great book.
Oh, it's a great book.
Great. What is a book that made you cry, Jaden?
Well, honestly, I could not think of an answer to this one.
Yep.
But This is the one we talked about briefly before the episode. And I'm like, oh man,
Oh,
you
man.
were right.
Yeah. That book is Words of Radiance. And to give you ideas here, I don't think it quite brought me to tears, but it gets me close every time.
Oh.
But this is not any spoilers, but you'll know what I'm talking about when you think about what is the worth of a soul.
Yep.
That moment is very powerful. Very powerful.
It's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
It's worth reading, 1,500 pages to get to that point?
Yeah. It is. So what is a book that made you happy then, Jamie?
I put Tress of the Emerald Sea.
Ah, you took mine.
Really?
Yeah, that's a great book. Of course it's going to make you happy.
It's also just a fun book. It has a great lead character. It's just well written. It's like a forlorn lover's story in parts. So it's one of those, it's an upbeat story. I really liked it.
Yeah, same for me. It's just very fantastical, very fun. The style that it's written. Whimsical is a great way to say it. It's very fun, hilarious at times, and it's a book that I could easily recommend to anyone. That's a book in the Cosmere that you could start with.
That's a high recommend for sure.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, next one. What is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year?
So you may notice behind us, we have bookshelves. You may also notice that Marty's bookshelf has a lot more nice, cool covered books than I have, which is why you see more spines on my side of the aisle. But the most beautiful book that I have bought in the last little while is one of the only books that I bought in the last and it's Sunlit Man. That's an easy one.
Of course.
And I have to show it because, we're talking about beautiful books right there. On both sides, fantastic. Black Pages is so cool. Anyway, that's a win for me.
Oh, yeah. It's easily the best book for me, too. Even the pictures.
You put the same thing?
Oh, yeah. Dude, you can't not put that book.
I don't know.
It's probably one of the most beautiful
cool
books that I've ever seen.
I look at your Lord of the Rings book, and I'm always like, that's cool.
Oh, man. I forgot about that one.
I look at that during the podcast often.
Yeah, I do, too. Honestly, this is one of those books that I pull out often with the red.
I'm shocked you didn't go for that one straight away.
Honestly, I completely forgot about it. I was like, because I was thinking about the Sunlit Man. But this book, what's amazing about it is that this is Tolkien's actual artwork that he's done for the book.
And show him the pages, too.
Yeah, so let's see.
There's writing on the edge of the pages.
Oh, yeah, right.
People need to see it.
I know, it's amazing. And
So
even
cool.
the front, like,
It's
his
so
own
cool.
sketches and everything. But it's just such a fun book. Just thumbing through this, you just realize that this is a work of art. It's a masterpiece. It is just amazing. The Lord of the Rings is just amazing. So.
It's an effective vessel for a masterpiece writing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I love it. And it just feels heavy and it's fun. I love that. Great book. Thanks for the reminder.
You're welcome, because I see it every time we record.
And you got the Hobbit right there too, which is in the same style as that one too.
Very,
which
very
is
cool.
Very, very cool. So our last question here is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year?
Well, I mentioned we have a big, long list. There's a lot of things that we need to get to, and honestly, we're going to have to blow through this list. But if you want to read along with us, that is what we're here for. We want to read with our community, react with you guys. Obviously, we're going to read the remainder of the Stormlight Archive, Preparing for Wind and Truth.
Reread with us.
Reread it with us. It's coming. Those videos are coming. Subscribe.
We've already read the book, The Way of Kings, the Words of Radiance. We are going to be reading Oathbringer and Rhythm of War before Wind of Truth. We'll have
you guys.
With you guys. So subscribe, watch our videos so you can watch it with us and prepare for Wind and Truth. It will be awesome. We're really, really excited about it.
And that's our key. That's our key for the rest of the year, what we plan to read, what we plan to prepare for. So many other books are going to be a part of that. We want you to be a part of that as well. So please subscribe to the channel. Join us. We're excited to have you in the community.